Hi, Taryn.
Hey, Sarah.
Welcome to She Can't Do That.
But she did it anyway. What did she do?
Well, today we have family in the studio.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect for the holidays. Have family around.
The holidays are going to be way over when we air this, but it doesn't matter. Just for you to give you reference, the holidays are coming up. We're like in the middle of the holidays.
Yeah.
It's by now it's probably like February, March, whatever. But that's how show business works.
This is how it works.
People. That's how it works.
Sorry to burst your bubble if you didn't know that.
Yes. Family. Ginger Lee Valentine, my sister-in-law, whom I love very, very deeply.
Yeah.
She is amazing, and she has some things to
talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, I never knew Elf on a Shelf and burlesque dancing could be in the same sentence. So there's that.
Let's find out how they go together.
I feel like we're like at a bar or something, and it's like
that's what it
should be.
We should just be having drinks.
Yeah,
see,
it's
and
really
that's why we
cozy.
don't record it on video.
Yeah,
because then we
Although
would have a camera in. I know
you guys are so beautiful, and look, just me being a showbiz adjacent, I'm like, you got to let the people see your face. You know what I mean?
At some point, and I agree with you, and I like the podcasts that have the faces and everything, and I feel like at some point we have to film everything. But also, I feel like you get better conversations.
It is. I feel more comfortable in darkness.
In this setting,
dim,
right?
Yeah. And with like the light, like just having,
cozy living room vibes.
As this if you would have like the light in your face and the camera in your face. It's way more, and you're like, how am I looking and stuff?
Yes, exactly.
So
you're a little bit more self-conscious of like everything. No, this is amazing.
Do we talk about that way related?
What? Oh yeah, why not?
That's fine.
I think
okay,
that's
good.
Cool.
That's fine. Okay, good. For me too.
I like to scream it from the rooftops because I am an only child. I don't have any siblings, so I was very happy to marry into the Murphy family. And,
I don't have any sisters, so
I know. We got each other.
Yeah. Cute. No, I mean, just yesterday when Ray was not annoying me for a minute, I was looking at her and I was I love you so much. Yeah. So I'm not regretting having her.
No, but you never have a break to just follow your dreams.
Yeah.
Like I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I only have a toy poodle, and sometimes I'm like, I think about you. I do, and I'm just like, I don't even know how these moms do it. And I know lots of women who do what I do and also are mothers and doing all this stuff. It's crazy.
It's the mental toll.
Yeah. And you never get a break.
Yeah.
The dads always get a break.
Yeah, the mentality for women
They physically get a break. They mentally get a break. They hormonally get a break. They can check out. And then they're like, oh, well, I'm bringing home, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Moms don't.
That's the thing that they're finally talking about more, I feel like. Over the last years, like the mental load on mothers. And that's just, you can't blame men for not having this or anything. That's not anybody's fault. I think that's just nature.
I think it's systemic. I think it's not natural. I think it's systemic. I think it's patriarchal, systemic capitalism. And it's marginalizing women and exploiting our labor.
Mm-hmm. Capitalism specifically, or do you think this applies in other cultures too?
I think that...
Like in other countries that aren't so capitalistic.
Like what?
Like Canada compared to the U.S. is not so much about capitalism.
But they operate on their economy though is capitalist. Though,
yeah,
right?
But they're like a little more socialist in terms of like they have like the health coverage and stuff like that. Like they do think more about like a taking care of society mentality.
Yeah.
Like we went to Italy one time and we had these Canadian friends that were talking about how prolific the capitalist mentality is in America compared to them, which was shocking to me because I thought the same of like, aren't we the same? Isn't Canada the same as the US? But to hear from them, like, no, you guys are so into like money and money drives everything. It's all about money. It's all about power. And I was like, oh, that's fascinating that even Canadians don't think.
Yeah, I think that it's really the right to left spectrum and not so much like capitalist. And I could totally be wrong here because this is not anything that I have studied like in a academic setting, but our values, like when you talk about healthcare, like that's actually a very centrist view. To provide healthcare for your citizens. It's not necessarily to the left or to the right. And I think that it's not so much that Canada is more capitalist or that the United States is. I think that we're more extreme and conservative, and we're more to the right than Canada, Finland, countries like that, England, you know. Now, these countries also benefit from exploited labor and colonialism and all that kind of stuff. And I think that, you know, it's not that far different. And I do think that it's inherently tied to the exploitation of women's labor, this idea, you know, and this structure of like, oh, we have, you know, men go out and earn and women are gatherers and nurturers. Not really. Women are also warriors. Women fight. Women are famous for fighting.
Yeah.
Women fight better than men. Sarah does jujitsu. You already know. Look at Cecilina.
Joan of Arc, or like the longest reigning ruler in history was a Egyptian woman. Yeah. And we never studied about her in history.
No, we never. Where do you think Albert Einstein got all of his ideas? Every single, like, I
read that somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Carl Sagan, you know, like there's all these crazy stories, and you hear these great minds from these men.
Yeah.
It makes you
behind every great man is an even greater woman.
Oh man, what a crock of shit.
True to that. But I would like to know that in countries where it's different than here, let's take, for example, the Scandinavian countries where they have healthcare, where they have maternity and paternity leave, where they have childcare, all that stuff. Is it different there that the mental load is not only on women or more on women than on men? Is it different there than it is here?
That is so interesting.
Do the men also leave the house and think about everything? Or do they just like here put their shoes on and leave and then they're fine?
Well, I would really like to know. And that also made me think of something you said too, Taryn, about when you're like America and Canada and like capitalist and like less capitalist. And I think that really, I wonder if what makes sense to me instead of replacing capitalism with more of like a consumption mindset. Like when you talk about that and you compare us to other countries that maybe are still democratic and, you know, whatever, but Americans for sure, we're like, well, we got to get new gifts for we got to get new decorations for the holidays. Well, we got to do the boo baskets. There's always like a new fucking thing that you have to buy. You have to get new school clothes. No, you don't. Even not that long ago, we all grew up in the 80s, right? Like we would get maybe new school clothes and that would last till you wore them out.
Yeah.
And then probably they got passed down to a cousin or sister or somebody, you know, somebody else. So I do feel like when it comes to
consumerism for
Americans,
sure.
And that makes me wonder about, what you're saying too, if there's this weaponized incompetence or there's the idea of Christmas magic. Like, I would love to see women go on strike for the holidays just once.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. I can say this as a childless woman because I kind of want to be like, fuck them kids. I'm sorry. Like, they deserve their magic, I guess, but I would love to see women go on strike. Not even for, look, you can save your precious Christmas just for Halloween.
Yeah.
Go on strike.
There wouldn't be costumes.
There would be nothing.
There wouldn't be candy.
There would be nothing. And the men would be like, well, what about it, babe? Where's it coming from? I'm not doing it. I gotta go. I got a tea time at 12. Sorry, I'm gonna go play golf.
For 6 hours.
Yeah, for 6 hours. That's another thing too, is that like women's hobbies are like yoga, Pilates, work on your body, improve yourself, go out for an hour. Men get to go play golf. If we were like, no, I'm gonna go have a spa day for 6 hours with my girls, a lot of men in this country would be in panic mode. Well, what do they eat for breakfast? What do they do? What do they, you know? Like, I'm babysitting my kids.
Oh my God, isn't that what I just sent you the other day? I sent a thing from Instagram to Taryn, which is if women would be praised what they do with their children, the way men, it's like, what? You came home from work and then you made dinner?
What a great
Oh my God, what a great mom you are.
No, moms don't get shit.
What? Yeah. You took your kids to the park? Oh my God.
That is exploitation of labor, and that is a capitalist issue, I think. I think so.
Well, so I want to hear about like what formed all of this thought, opinion, perspective. So maybe,
how did I get so radicalized?
Yeah, I want to know. So maybe let's start in the beginning because I also hear an accent. I want to know that cute accent, where it's from. So yeah, let's start from the beginning.
Where I
You
come
can
from.
tell us who you are and where you're from.
I did not think I had an accent, but I like that I do. Now I'm probably gonna bring it out.
What did you think? What
where do
does
you?
the
I'm
accent sound like?
thinking Southern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bless your heart. I am Texan. I'm Texican. There's a saying like, we didn't cross the border crossed us. So on my dad's side, I am Mexican, Texican, Chicano. There's like, we don't, it's one of those weird ethnic groups where a mixed bag of European, Spanish, indigenous, and we've been part of Texas at least for 7 generations. My dad's traced back. So like I have a very deep, strong, like I believe purely that I at least have a big chunk of me that is truly indigenous to Texas and that land and like northern Mexico. So that's like a huge part of me. And my mom, born in Oklahoma, raised in Texas. And I spent my whole life there. Well, not my whole life, until I was 20. And then I went to college at Louisiana State University. So I spent like almost 40 years in the South. And then I moved to LA when I was 37.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you go back to Texas, do you feel grounded or anchored? Like, does the land resonate?
It does. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so
And it
cool.
is really difficult too because of I don't even want to call them political views. I would just say my standards for humanity, is what I call them, are so different from the state government of Texas. And there's a lot of pain and sadness there for sure, because I feel very strongly connected to the land and to my ancestors. And those types of things are very valuable and meaningful to me as a human being. So it's just like kind of rough, when you hear about the crazy, like, women dying because they can't get a DNC because they had an ectopic pregnancy. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Women need to go on strike.
Yeah.
Again,
Women need to go on strike.
There we have it again. We're not protesting enough.
No, we're not. It makes me the French know how to protest.
Oh, yeah.
We need to be
Something doesn't
defecating
work.
in the streets, and I'm not even joking.
Something little in France. Yeah. There's the tiniest thing that doesn't work. And they're like, no, not doing that.
No.
Yeah.
Just going on the street, not doing this.
Yeah. I would say, though, in terms of like my views, I was really influenced by my mom, who was kind of iconoclastic, very strong woman. And I grew up listening to punk rock music. And it wasn't just like, oh, I like the Dead Kennedys. I took those lyrics to heart. They resonated with me. So it really did form a lot of my views and ideologies in terms of like, and I'm not to say that I live in solidarity and perfect harmony and do everything right. That's not the case. But from a very young age, I was like, class consciousness, like solidarity, equality, these types of things were valuable to me, especially because also growing up in the 80s, they taught us about civil rights. And the way they described it, very Disneyfied and sanitized in our textbooks, I kind of took them word for word. I'm like, oh, so we should care about this. So we should care about equality, and we should care about all these types of things. I think that personality too, I'm just very literal, just kind of like, if you tell me, so I'm very black and white sometimes. And I'm like, why do we not, care about this stuff? But yeah, so I grew up in Texas and just, was a pretty normal-ish kid, I think. And just, did dance and did all that kind of stuff. And really, I think had a pretty normal Gen X kind of upbringing where my parents took really good care of me physically, gave me lots of hugs and kisses and love, but I was kind of like up to me to like figure everything else out, like emotional regulation or, just guiding myself, navigating through administrative stuff at school, like testing and getting into college and all that kind of stuff. I was kind of on my own. And I think that a lot of other women might experience that too, especially if you're like the only daughter or the eldest daughter, where you kind of become mom's little helper. And people, again, oh, boys mature faster. Oh, people don't help women. They think we got it. They're like, she's got it. They're good, And I think that we need to check in with people more often and be like, are you good? Are you good? Like, are you taking care? Yeah.
Need help?
Yeah.
Or we just actually, if you ask the question to a woman, do you need help? The answer is most of the time no.
I'm fine.
I'm fine.
I don't ever ask for help.
You just have to give help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to do this for you.
Yeah.
You sit down.
That's very true.
Because otherwise she's just going to say, no, I got it. It's okay.
Yeah. And it's like you start a trend, and then that person's like, oh yeah, I remember Sarah did that for me. I'm going to do it for and then we all strike next Halloween, right?
We're not making costumes.
No, I really want it to be Christmas, but I feel like that's asking way too much.
If I wouldn't have a daughter where I want to keep the magic alive for her, I would totally agree on Christmas.
I know. Well, you know what? When it comes to strikes and protests, it doesn't need 100% participation. It's really a much smaller number. I don't know. I read this somewhere, and I don't know what the official number is, but it's actually a lot less. So we don't need everyone to be on board. We just need,
we just need.
But I would like to be on board.
I know, yeah. I understand about, especially in today's climate, I really understand and appreciate trying to protect these babies and give them some magic.
It is so different the way you were brought up and probably the way Terry was brought up too, kind of at the same time. Am I a little bit older than you? A little bit younger?
Is 2 years even count when you're in your 40s?
We're the same age.
Yeah, same age.
But the thing with figured out like lots of hugs and kisses and stuff, but it changed so much over the last 20 years, I would say, or 30. I don't know how children are raised, and now with giving them their space and walking them through all their
feel about that? Letting them sit in their anger?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was sent to my room.
Exactly.
Oh, you're angry? Get out.
Yeah. I don't want you at the dinner table with that attitude.
Exactly. You can leave.
And now it's okay, you're angry. You have the right to be angry. You don't have the right to throw plates around, but you have the right to be angry. I'm going to sit here with you. I'm going to help you through it. So you learn that this is an emotion that you can also overcome. And it's so different to how we grew up.
Totally.
And the involvement of freaking parents in their lives.
I don't know, it's
just
too much.
Schools, for example, you said you had to figure it out with
school. And then it's Spirit Week, and now we're all gonna wear pajamas. Yeah. And then next week, don't forget Teacher Appreciation Day. And did you sign the look? And a lot of my friends don't even have kids either, and I still see all this shit, and I get so tired.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, I'm in this WhatsApp group with all the parents of my daughter's class.
Yeah.
And the amount we text in this WhatsApp group about their homework is ridiculous. My mom was never involved in my homework, in my tests, or anything. School was my thing. And it was also when I was in second grade, our homework was made that a second grader could do it.
By themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And these days they come home, my daughter is in fourth grade now, but she came home in first or second grade with homework and then they're going to, you have to ask them these questions, and then they have to answer this, and then you have to test them on this, and then they have to tell you how to write this word. And I'm well, this is something she couldn't even do by herself. Are you kidding me? Involving me in my child's homework?
It's giving capitalism. It's giving training the kids to be obedient workers. But no child, especially younger than 10, needs to be in a building sitting, paying attention for 8 hours a day. Am I wrong?
No, you're not.
I think that's so crazy.
Yeah.
That is systemic. They're training us to be obedient workers.
And then come
Women
home.
should strike on Halloween.
Yeah, and then come home and do
and then
more.
do more labor. Yeah, more work.
What was she in school for 6 hours or 7 hours or whatever that I'm explaining math to her now?
And are you even qualified to do that?
No.
I think about if I was in that position, I would be having panic attacks because I failed math.
Yeah.
I am not the one to be helped. That's why we have teachers and
And the way they do it these days, I don't even understand what they're doing.
Oh my God. Grade. What is Common Core?
It's they just do
I know. They're just making stuff up to, I don't know.
Okay. So anyway, rant over.
A tangent.
Yeah. That was a good vent session.
Yeah. I just have so much mad respect for moms.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I really do. Really.
Let's get back to your childhood. When did you start dancing?
I started dancing at 3. I was totally one of those kids that was Mom and Dad, sit down. You do not need to watch Knots Landing tonight. I have the entertainment planned. I was totally one of those kids. And my mom was like, okay, we got to put this girl in dance classes. So I did just the combo jazz ballet tap kind of class for a long time. And then I kind of fell off of dance when I was 11 or 12, once I really came to the age where it's okay, now we're going to get serious or not. And I was like, nah, I'm good. And also I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have the money to be serious in ballet growing up. It's so expensive to do it seriously and do everything that you need to do with private lessons and it's just really competitive. But then I really missed it. And so when I was 14, I just was I have to dance again or I'm going to have a freak out. And my mom put me in a dance class again. And I was like, this isn't enough. I need more training. And I auditioned for the Performing Arts High School and I got in. And then that gave me incredible training and I was very serious about it. And then I met a friend of mine there who was like, you should come take ballet with me because the ballet classes here are kind of, and I was like, yeah, what's up? She's like, well, my friend, my teacher, Svetlana Nikolai. And then I got in with these Russians. They changed my life. Love them. And so I started in high school. I was going to this performing arts high school in downtown Dallas. And then in the evenings, I was driving me and my friend across DFW to Tarrant County, and we were taking ballet classes in like this little shoebox. And that's pretty much what my high school life was like. I didn't go to a school that had a football team. I didn't go to homecoming. I was a very like artsy kind of girl. I didn't watch Friends. I was very like in my own kind of world, very fascinated with dance and ballet and voice.
What was your dream at that point?
I think that my dream at that point, before that even, I remember being about my niece's age. My niece is 10, and someone was coming over to spend the night, and I was like all sweaty because I've been dancing in my room, and they were like, what are you doing? And I remember this so vividly. I was very like haughty about it. I was like, I'm working on my career. Like I always wanted to be a dancer. I wanted to be like a ballerina, a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, a showgirl, anything on stage, dancing, being sassy, being flirty, having power. And I think that when I was a ballet student in my teen years, I was very lost because I didn't believe, and I was right for this, ballet is elite and it is not inclusive. I was not going to make it in any professional paid company being a ballet dancer, even though I was pretty decent. Like I was definitely like, you'll meet almost anyone that's like, oh yeah, I did ballet, but like I did ballet. Like I really, really did it. I took some serious training. I was pretty good. But yeah, I was not gonna make it as a career. And I think also in my mid to late teens through my early 20s, I didn't have a lot of, what's it called? Like I didn't have long distance, like I was very nearsighted. I wasn't really thinking, like to think about like, what are you going to do when you're 25? I'm like, I don't know, dude. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. Like I can't think that far, Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's like, just my personality or my brain chemistry or what, but I've just been a little impulsive and just kind of live for today.
Which is great. I admire that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's scary sometimes. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I admire that. To just like, I'm doing what I want to do now.
Yeah.
Because who the heck knows what's in 25 years anyway?
Yeah, that's very true. But it's kind of, you will have to come to judgment day sometimes because, it's always, nothing's guaranteed. And you always, have to kind of find a way to pay your rent.
Right.
Yeah. And
was ballet the dance that you felt happiest doing at this age? Okay.
Yes. It was and this is something I regret. I did not identify as a dancer. And at my performing arts high school, they would tell me, you're not a ballerina, you're a dancer. And I rejected that wholeheartedly. And I said, no, I do ballet. That's it. I didn't even think I was a good dancer.
Why was that, you think? Why did you?
That's a very good question. I think this has to do with my personality, brain chemistry, where ballet was something that I really fixated on. I truly loved it. And I tend to be a very focused, passionate, like once I love something, you know what I mean? Sometimes everything else can kind of go by the wayside. So I really don't have any explanation other than it really just was the thing I loved. I loved the discipline. I loved the athleticism. I loved the pain. I love the progress. I loved the striving and yearning. I am a recovering overachiever perfectionist. I am so mean to myself. And I think that's why I liked ballet, because I could really be mean to myself in a way that was noble. I'm being real.
I get that. That is so interesting.
Gosh,
I did ballet too, maybe not as extreme as you did, but I did point and stuff too.
Yeah, serious.
And when people said, oh my God, doesn't that hurt? I was like, yeah.
You love it.
Exactly. Yeah. It does hurt, but that's fulfilling for some reason.
That's systemic, back to capitalism. I think, training us to be obedient workers.
We go back to that.
You can edit
Karen's
out all
just
of my
shaking her head.
political interjections.
No,
but I
this
can't
is
help.
so powerful.
But it is, though.
It's
But it is, though,
noble to
because-
glorify pain in ballet.
Yeah, and I am rejecting all that shit so much now. Now it's noble to rest. Now it's noble to lie down. Now it's noble to say, no, that's not for me. Mm-mm.
But that is so hard to come from the one extreme to the other extreme.
Oh, yeah.
To sit on the couch for 20 minutes and do nothing and not feel like
I'm not, I can sit
shit
on, but that's
about
why
it.
I play Animal Crossing. I play the same video game as my niece because I cannot, it's like, oh, well, I'm resting, but also look at all this money I'm making on my game. Like, it's so sickening.
I know. It's so hard for us to just do nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But so you were in this high school, the Performing Arts High School,
Mm-hmm.
and they told you were a dancer, not a ballet dancer, and you didn't like that.
Right.
They also told you, I think there was some person who told you something that resonates with our title of our podcast a lot.
Yeah.
She can't do that.
Yep. See,
Tell us that
the,
story.
Department head, the high school I went to, Booker T. Washington High School for the Performing and Visual Arts, is a very well-respected school. A lot of the faculty has advanced degrees, including PhDs, and it's like going through a collegiate program. It's very serious, and they take themselves very seriously for better or for worse. And I remember 2 moments when the department head was telling all of us in the dance group, just like, the reality is maybe one of you might make it, on Broadway as a Rockette at ABT in some of you more will dance on cruise ships, whatever. They kind of they have it very tiered or whatever. And I also remember being a senior in that program, and they were because they all care about numbers and stats and their funding. They're like, who's going to go to college and who's going to get the scholarships and who's going to make us look the best. And they were really trying to work with me. And I was just so like, I don't know what I'm going to do when I graduate. I'm taking ballet in Arlington and I love that. Maybe I'll wait tables. And I think they were kind of like, wanting me to go to school and pursue teaching and stuff. And they're like, well, you're not going to be a working dancer,
Did you disagree with that at that moment? Did you at that moment knew oh, I'm going to show you?
Yes and no. Definitely, I have a very determined, defiant thing about me. And I a lot of people, if you tell me no, I'm like, well, we'll just see about that.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I don't want to, I know that's not the honest answer. The honest answer is I was kind of like, yeah, you're probably right, bitch, but I'm still going to do it my way. I'm still, I kind of was like, yeah, maybe I won't. So what? I don't care, kind of your scholarships and your school. And I just love to dance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about, scholarships and prestige and all that kind of stuff.
I don't understand in general if it's a performing arts school that they tell anybody, oh, you're not going to make it in dancing. They should actually say all of you can make it. Statistically, you probably not all of you are going to make it, but all of you are able to make it. It's like you go to an engineering school and they tell you, oh, none of you is going to be an engineer.
I really think that is
what the
gatekeep.
heck?
I know. I think it's a type of gatekeeping, honestly. I think that's why it's really important to question mentors, mentorships, and who you take advice from, because a teacher, they're human. 9 times out of 10, do you think people are going to be comfortable to see their students surpass them? Are they going to help you surpass them? Probably not. And I do believe that there's a lot of that going in where it's there's a little bit of bitterness and they've all retired, they've all done their thing, and they're like, well, we had to, we couldn't, and you probably can't either. And there's also this nobility of oh, it's so hard to do, and only those, there's just so much kind of elitist gatekeeping about it. And I feel like art's for the people. And there's folk art, there's classical art, there's, all kinds, and smutty art, my favorite kind. And, it's all valuable. And I think it is good to uplift artists and to hold them in esteem, but not in that kind of a way. And people do it in burlesque too, I feel like. That's one thing that I kind of, not that I'm fighting in my community, but I am taking a much more public stance of anyone can get involved in burlesque. And there's other people that kind of be like, well, it's very hard to do burlesque and you can't really make a living and you won't be able to pay your rent. And I'm like, yeah, that's true, but they can still do burlesque. You're telling them just to give up without even seeing what it looks like for them. Who are you? Who are you? The audacity. That's the kind of stuff that makes me mad. I'll see you on the street. It's on site.
And
No.
and it's so important what you just said. It's like so important where you take advice from. But the stupid thing is when you're that age at high school, you don't know that yet.
You don't know what you're
And somebody somewhere, some idiot can change your whole life with one freaking sentence.
And this is why I think people don't like the idea of women over 35. Or why they say things like in showbiz or in business or in aesthetics or whatever it is, like, oh, old ladies, oh, you don't want to age, oh, get your Botox, get your deep plane facelift, whatever. Because we know what the fuck is up. And we also know how to enforce boundaries. And we might just strike next Halloween if you don't fucking mind your P's and Q's. And that's why they don't, and that's why they want to say things like, make sure you stay thin and make sure, you know, you're doing your homework for your daughter. And are you bringing home the bacon? And are you a good mom? And did you do this for like, oh my God.
Yeah, and that's why it's so much easier to work with
Where's the joy?
16-year-old because they're not
impressionable,
Yeah.
malleable.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. They're like anything you say. I experienced that even in my 30s with like having a big job, big prestigious job, and looking back now, I'm like, oh, I was totally this like big dopey-eyed, like I'll do anything you say. Like I could see how, oh, y'all must have been so happy to see me coming. Do you know what I mean? Like I was such a big target.
Yeah.
Because I was so open and so hungry and so willing and so earnest.
Yep.
And those are not bad qualities, and I will never lose those qualities as a form of resistance. As a form of resistance, I will not lose my softness. However, I'm not going to not be discerning.
Right.
And I think that also it's important to understand two things can be true at once, that things are fluid and that sometimes it's okay and sometimes it isn't. And when we kind of get into these areas of like, it's either this way or the highway, it gets jammed because we're so different, all of us. You know, we can't all be doing the same thing the same way.
No.
The same path, you know.
So then what did you do after high school?
So I did exactly what I wanted to do, which is continue to take ballet and wait tables. And I had a great time. I also was a cart girl for a couple of years. But then I was like, oh, shit, I need to go to college, right? Like that was something that I was just like, I guess I need to go to college. And I thought, maybe I guess I'll be a Spanish teacher. I don't know. I like school. I had no idea. So I went to LSU. And that was where I heard the word burlesque for the first time. And that was when I told myself that I couldn't. And then I did. So I also have told myself no. And then I proved myself wrong. And I looked at myself in the mirror and said, you lie.
What did you tell yourself you couldn't do?
So after, you know, it's so crazy when you're in your life, because I was like 23 and high school felt like ages ago when it was really just 5 years, which is like, what? But I was almost graduating LSU and I was online and I heard about this woman, Dita Von Teese, and these girls, the Pussycat Dolls. And I had always loved old Hollywood and dancing and fishnets and sexy things, even from a very, very young age. I don't know why I was like this, but I've always been like that. And I remember thinking like, wow, this is so cool. I have all this dance training. I know I could dance like that, but I'm 23. And I could hear the department head's voice like, you know, dancers don't have a long shelf life and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I can't move to LA and become a burlesque dancer. And then what I ended up doing was I moved to LA when I was 37 as an established burlesque dancer to star in Dita Von Teese's show on tour, wearing her costume, dancing on her prom. Performing at sold-out shows at the Palladium in London and Casino de Paris in Paris and in Berlin and Perth in Australia and worldwide, getting my own curtain calls, standing ovations. And I was doing that after 35. And
amazing.
That is like, that, because that happened to me, and I am not special. I am not. I have mental disabilities. I have hangups. I have a lot of self-limiting beliefs. The only thing I think that's different about me is I am very resilient. I am very resilient, and I'm very like curious problem solving, I think. And so I don't even know, how I came from being 23 and saying I can't do burlesque and move to LA to like 12 years later doing that is when I was 23, I had a few more years in Baton Rouge as a student. I moved back home to Texas and someone was like, hey, there's a burlesque show. Do you want to go? And I immediately like got very tense and I was like, no, because I knew if I went to a show, I had never been to a dance performance since I quit dancing. And I was like, I cannot sit in the audience. I can't do it. I want to be on stage so bad. And I was like, wait a minute, I want to be on stage. And because I'm resilient and very determined, I was like, well, I'm going to do something about it. And I took action the next day. The next day I took action, and it just was a divine timing. I Googled burlesque audition. Like, such a thing existed, but it did. And there was this teeny tiny troupe, and they were having an audition. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go on this audition. I went. One other girl went. We both got it. It was, I don't want to say it was a joke, but I mean, it's not like, even performing like with the NBA or like, it's just this very small funded, just like, do you want to book us at your motorcycle bar kind of like thing. My parents were like, okay.
How much did you know about burlesque at that time? Like, how did you prepare for that audition?
I watched Chicago and the movie Gypsy. I think because I had been seeing like the Pussycat Dolls and I saw the kind of movement they were doing. I think like a lot of dancers who got into burlesque, I saw that and I go, oh, they're just doing Fosse. Like, they're just doing it. Like, I know these moves. Like, oh, I know these moves. And so when I first got into burlesque, what I really got into was cabaret dancing and dancing provocatively in skimpy outfits. But what I really do now is striptease, which is a different art form. And burlesque kind of is an umbrella term that a lot of people use to describe, both.
I just wanted to say, can you describe burlesque for the people who don't really even know what we're talking about?
Sure thing. So, there's like an academic way to describe it, but I'm going to describe it the way I describe it to everyone, which burlesque is the art of the tease. It's an American art form. Whenever you have the vision of a glamorous lady in a gown with like feathers and she's like taking off a glove, that's burlesque. At the same time, Saturday Night Live, the movie Airplane, any satirical comedy is a burlesque. Burlesque is something that was going on in Greek, plays and stuff thousands of years ago. They were making fun of the ruling class. They were subverting societal norms. They were being punk rock, and they were doing all these things. And that was burlesque. In the early turn of the century, before TV came around, there was all these traveling shows. And they were family shows, they were variety shows, they were vaudeville shows. And there's a lot of different legends and stories about how it came to be. There was a woman in England, Lydia and her 4 blondes, and they kind of get a little bit of credit because they were dancing in short skirts and wearing tights, and everyone was like, oh my God, you can see the shape of their legs. There's some other story that like somebody was rushing off stage trying to do a quick change and the audience went wild. And then they were like, oh man, maybe there's something there. People talk about Little Egypt and also performers of color and, other parts of the world that danced differently than white people. And they, it's just kind of like a melting pot. But by the 1930s, burlesque was its own art form. You had Gypsy Rose Lee traveling the world with her Louis Vuitton bags, and you had Sally Rand at the World's Fair, Chicago, 1936, dancing with her fans. And at that time, burlesque was like this very like consumable, fun, very grand show that people would go to. They would go because they had air conditioning. They could escape the heat, and like see a show. And then it kind of progressed and things, TV came around and then it kind of got different. They didn't have the budget. It kind of fell to the wayside. People started using a jukebox. People started dancing nude, in San Francisco, that's topless dancing, the birth of topless dancing. We wouldn't have modern day gentlemen's clubs if it wasn't for burlesque, but we wouldn't have burlesque if it wasn't for, you can just kind of like watch it like go all through history. So when I talk about burlesque in the way that I do it is part of this big revival that's been happening in the past 35 years. And it's usually a self-funded art form, not always, featuring one person as an artist. I compare it a lot to stand-up comedy, usually you're in a variety show, you have a certain amount of time, it's just you and your bit. But people do troupes, there's, festivals all over the world, a big community of people that do it. I would say Dita Von Teese is the only person that's really known now for being very famous for it and being successful.
Are you completely naked at the end of a burlesque?
Not completely. It's more like a triangle and 2 Band-Aids.
Okay.
No, it's I usually go down to G-string and pasties, and that's totally an individual, like kind of an individual, choice. There are blue laws in the states that exist that prevent us from going down further. Lots of artists would. There's great shows at the Box in New York City where they, push all kinds of boundaries. Some states like Nashville are very difficult with their blue laws. It's almost impossible to do burlesque because they want you to cover very particular things, like so many inches to the right or left of your butt crack, and like you can't show like under boob, and
really?
It gets really tricky. Traditionally, though, people go down to some kind of bottoms and pasties, which may or may not have tassels that they twirl, which were invented because Vice used to come in to make sure that women were wearing pasties. And they would, I guess, probably bust people. And they're like, no, I'm wearing pasties, see? And they started hanging things from them to be like, look, you can see I'm clearly wearing like pasties.
Oh my gosh.
And then they started, that's my understanding anyway. Yeah.
I have a question. If it wasn't for the blue laws, would you go down to nothing?
I probably would. I've danced. I've never danced fully nude before. Honestly, I don't know if I would go fully nude. I feel like super graphic fully nude when it comes to like really graphic in that area. I feel like that's for men. And I'm not really doing it for men. That's not really like, I feel like what the girls want to see. But I know that women love to look at other women. And women definitely, like, I would definitely not wear pasties. Pasties is, I think they're ridiculous. I'm a tassel twirler and I enjoy doing that and it's fun. But if it wasn't for the law, I would not wear pasties. I think it's silly.
What is it about burlesque that captured you? Especially because it's so different from ballet. Like, I feel like they're on two polar opposite sides of the spectrum.
I really meant what I said, and this might be hard to hear for some moms, but from a very young age, I think I was just very interested, not in attracting attention from boys and men, but in feeling powerful. Mm-hmm. And I grew up on like the Tex Avery cartoons, you know, where like some girl has curled, like a kitty cat with curled lashes, and he's like, awooga. And I'm like, cool. And it wasn't about boys and men. It's just so fun. It's so pretty. But also, I think that for whatever reason, I've just kind of been a sexually charged person my whole life. Like I've always just been like, oh, what's up with that? You know what I mean? Which is also a juxtaposition because I'm not like that in my personal life. I'm actually pretty old timey and like very like I'm not like, you know,
traditional.
I'm kind of I just don't really like to.
Do you strip for your husband? No. What does your husband think about your job?
That was always something I wanted to know because Mike was the first person that, you know, where I was before that was with somebody that watched me become this, and I was with them forever. And then I was single, and Mike was the first person, my husband, that really like met me as Ginger Valentine, and I didn't even really know how to navigate that. And I just kind of avoided it. I know what he thinks now only because he's become this incredibly supportive, like so supportive. The way he talks about me and sees me in my career, I'm like, you are too much. But I never asked him. And I was like, that's really none of my business what you think about my career. And we met on Tinder. And the only social media I have is Ginger Lee Valentine. But I had my bio name, which is Elena, on, my Tinder. But I also had a roller skating account with me and my friend that my burlesque account was linked to. And the funny thing is when Mike and I found each other on Tinder, he had already been following my roller skate account just because I was local to his neighborhood and probably because we were cute. And he was like, I'm going to follow them.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny.
It's so funny. So he messaged me on Tinder and he's like, oh, are you in the hot rollers? And I was like, yes, I am. That's crazy. But then I was like, oh, this is great. He just knows me as this roller skater, but I forgot. And because I would have, if I would have found this boy and I was like, oh, what's this account? I'm like, oh, that's him. And so I know that at some point he must have done the recon and discovered and at that time on Instagram too, I was still posting crazy stuff. Like Instagram has changed a lot. I've changed a lot. And in my 30s, I had a male-based clientele. I was running not when I met Mike, but I had just stopped. But before that, I was running a spicy website. I had male-based clientele. I was posting pictures for men. I was serving the men. And my content was pretty sexy. As sexy as you could get for Instagram. So Mike saw a lot of me before we even met in person. And I really didn't know how to navigate that. I just kind of ignored it. And I was like, I'm just going to pretend I'm regular. And I didn't wear makeup around him for like 6 months. Like every time I saw him, I was just like, I just tried to be like, so not that. I mean, I was me. It wasn't like fake, but I was like, I'm not doing any of this stuff.
You didn't want him to fall in love with a showgirl.
No.
Yeah.
No. And he didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't.
But he saw a show of yours very early on.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that made me feel, I was very nervous about that.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, I was very nervous about that. Maybe we had slept together. Like if we had crossed that line, it was like very, very new, you know? And I had ever navigated a guy I like coming to see me dance. And actually that was one of the funnest shows. Like I was actually like, I remember I walked out and I was like scanning. I was like, where is he? Oh, there he is. You know, like I had fun with it.
Did you do the whole show just for him?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And honestly, sometimes I still do, you know, that's one thing that's gritty about burlesque when you do it full time is it's glamorous and beautiful, but it's not like you only do it when it feels good. Sometimes you're booked and you have to do it and you just had explosive diarrhea or you just got broken up with or anything, you know? And so sometimes you have to go out there and perform and you don't feel like it and you have to kind of pretend somebody's out there. And I love to think about Mike and just pretend that like, yeah, it's just like when we were dating and I'm like, gotcha.
I remember when he met you. That was very early on. I think he saw your show and he told me that he's hanging out with this girl. She's a dancer. Her name is Ginger. And we've been hanging out every day, kind of like non-stop since we first met. And that's so new for me, but also so amazing. I think I really like her.
Yeah.
And that was like very early on where I was just like, oh, that sounds
That's so
sweet.
Good. It was mutual. It really was. I immediately felt so comfortable around Mike, emotionally safe. I've never felt that way. And I didn't trust that feeling for probably about 3 years until we got married. And there was many times where I not tried to sabotage the relationship really, but just like with my words. Like I was entering perimenopause, undiagnosed ADHD. I saw a psychiatrist, I got help. But like I was really going through some dark times and it was really actually difficult to be with someone like Mike who was so steady and open and unwavering. And I was like kind of chaotic and like, what if I'm like this? Or then are you going to want to be with me? And he's like, yep. And I was like, oh, well, actually, I'm not really like that. I was just wondering if I was, what you would do. You know what I mean?
Well, I would still be here. Not going to get rid of me.
But I think one thing that works for me and Mike is that Mike knows, like Mike isn't trying to tame me. Mike isn't trying to get me to chill out. Mike isn't trying to get me to calm down. Mike isn't trying to Mike wants me to, you know, be me.
Be you.
Yeah. Which is awesome. He's not, you know, he's like the black sheep of our family. He's kind of, you know, he's the one with tattoos or whatever. Like he's kind of like, I guess, like that guy or whatever. But he's just, yeah, I didn't give him enough credit when we first started dating. I really didn't give him enough credit. I had a lot of guard up and I was just kind of like, we'll see about you, guy.
Well, you didn't know at that point.
And I didn't. I made him work for it and he did. And I'm so grateful.
And
I was not going to be with anybody else. I honestly wasn't.
Yeah.
I really wasn't.
And that's something, especially with your career, that is very, very honorable because I don't want to know how many of your careers end as soon as there's a guy in the picture who thinks in the beginning, oh, this is sexy, oh, I love this. But then all of a sudden, like, oh, she's still doing this and other men are looking at her on stage too. I don't want that anymore. You gotta stop what you're doing right now.
The way they think they own women. And it's not even performing, y'all. It's just even taking class. That's actually the biggest heartbreak I have. I haven't seen this in a really long time, but I've seen it before where girls, you know, they come in. I used to teach in a studio in Dallas and you would see them come in and they get so happy and then you would get the email or they would, you know, I can't come back because, you know, they don't even want them taking the class. You know, it's not even sometimes about performing. It's just not even taking the class. Or there's this question or this suspicion of why would you want to do this if it's not for me or for them? And I think that a lot of women also kind of, you know, like even now this is actually a conversation I had just 2 weeks ago in the last in-person workshop I took. This girl's like, you know, sexually, I'm kind of like square. Like I'm kind of like shy. I'm not really into sexy stuff. And like, I love your classes. And my classes are very sexy. Like they're not just like, oh, we're going to be cutesy. Like they're erotic, you know, like we're going to go there and have some fun. And she's like, I love your classes so much. I don't even feel like I'm doing this for any guy. Like I just feel like it's just for me. Isn't that crazy? And I'm like, no, it's not crazy. Like it is. my very best friend is a belly dancer. And one thing I learned from her is that, one of the origins of belly dance was like by women for women. As like a fertility dance, and like to get women just like, yeah, we're women, and like women like to be around women. Women like to be around other women who are like feeling themselves. Women are inherently creative. Sex is a form of creativity. You can use, I believe, sexual energy in ways, or like erotic energy in a non-sexual way, or however you want to word it that makes sense to you. And I guess what I mean is like, it doesn't have to be heteronormative for the male gaze. It could be blurry, it could be queer, it could be weird, it could be fluid. And that's the thing too, is like the kind of burlesque I do, which is very much performing femininity. That is not a lot of people do burlesque in so many other ways, which is really refreshing, which is subverting femininity or masculinity or both, or, making some kind of big statement. Like, it's not all about, I just tend to like the glamour girl style, like aesthetically, I think also like from my ballet background. But I don't want to erase any of the people who do burlesque in other ways. It's really important,
So let's get back how you got where you are right now. Because last stop we took, you were waiting tables and taking ballet classes, and you were telling yourself, you can't move to LA, you can't be a burlesque dancer, you can't all do this. How did it change then?
So when I said like I just kind of like take things day by day, that's exactly how I got here. So I went on that burlesque audition. I got the job. I was in that troupe for a while. I decided I wanted to do actually striptease, which was actually pretty big no-no in the troupe that I was, because they were kind of like, well, we don't do, there's a lot of like, I don't like it when people try to separate burlesque from dancing in the club, because first of all, so many women that do burlesque danced in clubs, and you should not be like poo-pooing these women and then saying that this is okay when they're so intertwined. Let's normalize sex work, sex adjacent work, erotic work. But that was the kind of troupe I was in, where they're just like, well, we don't do that. Like we're classy. We don't show pasties. And I was like, I'm not classy. I'm not,
Not one of my goals.
Yeah, that's not one of my goals. That's not for me. That doesn't resonate. So it was one of those timing things. I left that troupe, and the revival was really in full swing. There was a big festival. I performed in that festival. I met up with some people, got some attention, and I linked up with one person that became my business partner in Dallas. And from there, we rebranded, restructured a burlesque troupe. And for 5 years, we produced and performed at the House of Blues Dallas in Houston every single month.
Just you and your partner?
Yes, we had a troupe, and I will never forget, we must have looked like we were 20, but I was like maybe 30, 29. I mean, we looked like we were babies, and I'll never forget going to House of Blues and having a meeting, and they're like, so you want to do a burlesque show? And we're like, yeah, like, yep. And like had our meeting, and we got a little residency, and we did that for a long time. And then we expanded to House of Blues Houston. It was fun. It was a toxic work environment. Unfortunately, I still have lifelong relationships with a lot of those women. It was bad leadership. It's where I learned what it means to wake up, be alert, stand in your power. If you see something, say something, have solidarity, all of those types of things. Like
what was toxic?
She, like, I would say general covert narcissistic traits in terms of leadership, and a lot of dishonesty about allocation of funds, and things that like look suspicious to me, and I never really dug into, that I had a right to dig into, but I just didn't, because I just kind of couldn't be bothered. And there was a big exit out of that troupe. I was really depressed, and I quit burlesque. This was when I was like 36, and I went to study Pilates. I got Pilates instructor training, and I was like, I guess I'm going to be a Pilates instructor. That was a good run. And then out of nowhere, I got I got an email from the Dita Von Teese, and she's like, hey, can you, we're going to start a tour. We're just checking out some people. Can you send me some info? And I remember seeing that and being like, well, okay, yeah, okay. I was kind of depressed. She like emailed me back in my memory. She's like, hello? And I was like, oh yeah, right. This is actually a big deal. So I turned in my stuff, and it was so casual. Like, I think it happened within a week. I was going to go teach. I had sent in my information, and I just got an email from the tour manager, and she was like, okay, we're going to need a bio, and we're going to need, fill out this W-2. And I was like, she's like, yeah, we're going on tour. We leave, whatever. And I was like, oh my God, okay. And that was what really, in terms of like the small global burlesque community, that I had already made a name for myself because of what we were doing at the House of Blues. And I had also done some other important accomplishments and big time things. But the thing was so much more like global.
Oh, I knew that was the only burlesque person I knew.
That's all,
too.
yeah.
I'm totally that typical audience.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew her from who she was married to.
Yeah, and I don't even say his name.
Yeah, but I also know her pictures in that champagne glass or what it is. That's like a typical thing, I think, that she does and stuff. She was the only burlesque person I could have named.
And she still is. And I'm afraid that will remain. This is the thing that I feel comfortable saying on this podcast, because it's not a burlesque podcast, is I don't believe, like, I think a lot of people are like, and then I'll, think they're going to be like the next Dita Von Teese. I think that was a kind of a timing kind of a thing, the arts aren't even funded. I don't even want to say the real arts, but I mean like the non-smutty arts, the popular arts are barely funded in this country. You think people are going to, get behind burlesque dancers, performers? Not necessarily. But that got me a lot of recognition and praise. And initially, I thought that was a 3-week gig. And then after I got back from that tour, about 2 weeks later, the production manager called me and was like, hey, do you want to go to Australia? And this is how I knew that my relationship at the time was over. I was just like, yep. And I remember telling that person, I was like, I'm going to Australia for 5 weeks. And they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. And I was just like, I'm going. I couldn't turn it down. I never thought that I would do anything like that. And then at the end of that tour, I truly believe it was to stick it to this other girl. But nonetheless, whatever the truth was, she was like, hey, I think you should come back out with us. And I think you should do this act and this costume and this prop. And she gave me didn't give me to have, but she like dressed me in one of her costumes and put me on this big light up heart. And I did that act. And a lot of people know me for that. Even still to this day, people are like, why don't you tour with Dita anymore? And I'm just like, well, I just don't. Mm-hmm. Everything comes to an end.
For how long did you do that?
Let's see. I started in 2016 and then like 2.5 years, almost 3 years. Yeah, I did 2 runs in Australia, 1 run in Europe, and then maybe 2 or 3 in the United States. And then the day before they released the next tour, the tour manager was like, hey, we're not going to renew your contract. And I was like, okay, thank you so much. And I remember they were like, well, thanks for making this easy. And I was like, in my mind, I had already moved on, I like already moved on. And I was truly grateful that I didn't have to like make that decision, because I would have gone back out and I would have broken out into hives. And, I was drinking alcohol. I was starting to smoke cigarettes again. Like I was doing a lot of, rough coping mechanisms, I think. I don't really like touring either. There's that aspect too. Like, I think I would like it if I was in that position where it's like, this is your tour and everyone's looking out for your best interest. I mean, sure, if I was in, princess mode, I would be 100%. But touring is tough, You got to find your water. You got to find your food. And it just constantly packing your bag and just taking like 11 flights in 3 weeks is just kind of harrowing.
Grueling.
Aside from, it was. And then when you would do it like Australia, I remember just, oh my gosh, the jet lag was, it's worse coming back. But I remember just like falling asleep in between my act and curtain call. And they're like, Ginger, wake up, it's curtain call. And I'm like, oh God, am I drooling? Okay. I'm so glad I did it though, because it allowed me to do what I do now, which is, that job ended. It was 2018. I was in LA and I was like, cool, I'm going to be a dance teacher and, just do my own thing. And that's what I did. Met Mike. And then 2019 was a very quiet year for me. I just did like a couple of gigs, mostly taught dance, was very happy. The pandemic hit. And because right before the pandemic, I had just started doing online classes because of touring with Dita. As people were like, oh my gosh, you teach in LA. Do you have anything online? Do you have anything online? And I mean, I have a site manager and friend, business not partner, but she's like my site manager and my coach. And she does my website stuff. And so we started like way before we were ready, where literally I think people would buy off my Shopify link and I would copy paste like my YouTube link and email it to them manually. And I was doing that for a while. And then when the pandemic hit, I was like, we got to do something different. Mm-hmm. And I had saved up some money and I gave a big chunk to her. And I said, can you help me out? And she set up my own subscription service. And I also launched another online course, and that sustained me through the pandemic. The thing that's best suited for me is online courses and private coaching because I'm a homebody and I like to stay at home and I like to be with my dog and I like to roller skate and I like to cook for my family. You know, like I don't really want to be traveling a lot. That's not my dream right now. I don't even have a passport right now on purpose. And people are like, we want to book you for the, you know, and I'm like, I don't have a passport. Call somebody else, you know? And they're like, okay, weirdo. But yeah, I would like to continue with, I want to blend my Pilates background and my dance background. I will never not move my body. And especially now that I'm getting older and starting to approach 50 and think about these things, I'm like, well, we need to work for functional independence. We need to work for expression. And I really am trying to marry and blend a lot of those things together and to find a way to do my own kind of like fitness approach, movement approach, philosophy. So I believe that I am a natural born like cheerleader instigator, and I want to do that for people outside of my community because I care so deeply about women, not just, you know, burlesque.
You just want to get everybody together to do a strike over Halloween.
I do. Yes, I do. I actually do want to. I want to unite people too. It's a top to bottom war, not right to left. Well, you know, surprise, I'm communist.
Right? You said once that achieving dreams without noticing that you achieved them already is part of your life. What did you mean with that?
I think that something that wears me out is like this like hustle and achievement and like girl boss thing and like don't stop striving. And I know men have that pressure too. I think with women it's extra because of the motherhood thing. And I also think that we're kind of trained or used to like start your Pinterest board, do your vision board, you know, like make your list, write it down, make it happen. And we focus so much more on like writing those goals down. And there is like some science behind like anticipation is actually like you start to lose it as soon as you get the thing, you know, it's like that anticipation moment. Like, you know, it's like the day before Christmas, you know, it's like the lights on the Christmas tree are kind of different Christmas night. You know what I mean? They kind of lose their magic. It's kind of because you've already opened all the presents and everything. And I think that at least for me, like I've realized, let's just say like even, you know, this year, for instance, there'll be times where I'm like, oh my God, am I doing enough? I don't know. I'm not making as much money as last year. I was lazy last week and like, oh my God. And I'm like, okay, GV, let's go back 10 years. What were you doing? Let's go back 3. I think about how far I've come. And I think that there's more of an emphasis on like the future and putting that stuff down there. And then you work so hard, and it's kind of like the reverse metaphor of the frog in the boiling water, I guess, where you start to have, if you don't celebrate these micro achievements and micro successes, if you don't stop along the way and be like, man, that's so cool. Like yesterday I couldn't do that, and today I could. You don't notice them. You don't clock them. Are they really happening? I don't know. And then you kind of get to this place of like, maybe it's like the idea also of like money doesn't buy happiness. It's like, this is what you wanted. Why aren't you happy? What are you chasing? What is it you were going for? Maybe my thoughts are getting kind of convoluted, but there's definitely been times where I remember, for instance, when I was in that troupe in Dallas back in the day, and I was like, oh my gosh, just to be a soloist performer. But I can also go back to when I was like touring with Dita by myself in a 4-star hotel and being like, oh my God, I don't want to go to work. Like, oh my God, you know, just like so miserable, so unhappy, or being really hard on myself because I thought that like, I'm not good enough, and I'm like, look at how far you've come. Look at what you're doing. This is, you know, what you wanted. I think it's also the idea of wherever you go, there you are. And I think that's why I get really passionate and inspired about mundane achievements, daily achievements, small victories, because it's like if you're going on vacation and you're going to go to this Fiji, right? And if you're so miserable on the flight because you're like, oh, I hate to fly and blah, 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 blah. Like, how easy is it for you to change your mindset once you get to Fiji? Then it's like, oh, the sand's hot. And, you know, like wherever you go, there you are. And I think that it's not saying to have rose-colored glasses or to be a hopeful optimist, but really just giving yourself credit for all the things that you do, I think, on a small daily basis.
That's what I'm always say when people tell me about that they have dreams and stuff, and I always say like it's so important, and I so get it that you follow your dreams like 24/7 and work for it, but please don't forget to live.
Yeah.
In the meantime.
Oh my God.
Because I made the
Same,
mistake.
right?
When I think back in my 20s, I had all these goals and I was just like, I need to achieve them. And I totally did not live my life. When somebody asked me how you're doing, I was always just like, yeah, kind of not okay, because I'm not there yet, because I have not achieved that yet, because I don't have that yet. It was always like, exactly how you said, when I get there, then I'm happy.
Yeah.
When I have that job, then I'm happy. When I make that money, then I'm happy. And when I look back now, I'm like, man, you had such a fun life. Why didn't you just enjoy what you had at the moment? I mean, you can still achieve your dreams, but you don't need to be miserable.
Oh my God.
Until the point, because you think when you get it, and everybody tells you that's not the case. It's not going to happen. You're not going to get that Oscar all of a sudden, and you are a happy person if you haven't been before.
It's true, because I have been
happen.
on a dream burlesque job crying my eyes out because
Exactly.
I wasn't happy, well placed. And it is so true.
Or we're hard on ourselves too. We're like, oh, I haven't gotten to the certain place that I wanted to be at 30, and so I'm not going to take that vacation because I haven't earned it. I didn't make $100,000 this year.
Right.
I'm not going to take that vacation that I desperately need.
And
you kind of punish yourself because you haven't realized the dream. And then later you realize, oh my gosh, I should have done that anyway.
Yeah.
Like that living was in those moments in between. It wasn't when I got to the dream or realized the dream.
I think about that with body dysmorphia a lot too. I can think about so many times, different times in my life where I felt heavy or felt like something. And then I look at that picture 5 years ago and I'm like, that was 15 pounds ago. And you thought you were, whatever then.
All the time.
Every photo I look at is the same thing.
So I tell
look
myself,
great in that photo, but I remember when I took that photo and I hated myself.
You hated yourself. And I am really trying so hard. I'm not saying I'm not going to get a deep clean facelift, but I'm trying so hard to unpack some of these extreme pressures. Like I really am trying, because I don't want to get surgery to stay young. That sounds dumb. Do I feel the pressure? Yeah, 100%, And I just think about that. It's just another type of distraction or oppression, kind of just like never being happy with yourself, never being happy. And I look at myself every day and I'm like, I hate to say this out loud because it sounds like I value these things, but it's part of the deconstruction. Like I'm never going to be younger. I'm never going to be more young looking, more thin than I am right now. This is it. And I think that it's, a radical form of resistance to accept yourself as you are, your achievements, not making $100,000, having a dip in sales, not closing the deal. I think it's so important to be okay with that. And I think that it's not just important, but healing kind of in a way, because we will lose sight of our lives. I'm watching a lot of my peers and colleagues do this. And so people will do burlesque as a part-time kind of pay-to-play gig. And then there's some people like me that are just like, I don't know how I got here and now I'm stuck. You know what I mean? We're like in their 40s and 50s and that's all that we do. And there's just like a lot of performers that they make burlesque be such a big time deal. Like, oh, like their vocation with a capital V. And I think that that's great, but like burlesque is not going to be there for you. Burlesque is not saving a pension for you. Burlesque is, no one is going, it's just something that you're doing and it's not your life. And I think it's so important to have whatever that is that looks like for you, whether it is I play video games at night with my husband, or I like to roller skate, or I cook with family, or I just like to chill and, create in my room, or I go on vacations with my mom, but something that's not tied to achievement. Skating was a bad idea because I still tie that to like, I got to get this trick, but just like, oh my gosh, we haven't done it in so long. But, Sarah and I, because we're sisters-in-law, we'll have like these little Saturday morning, like I live for those mornings and it's so casual. And it's not even like we're always like having the deepest conversation, or we're just kind of hanging out, and I treasure that so much. And that's one thing I treasure so much about my life with Mike. And his grounded energy is he really brings me back down to this physical world, because I will be so lost in just achievement. And it's like a defense mechanism. It's like, okay, I won't be in anyone's way if I'm thin and successful. People won't judge me if I'm thin and successful, and if I'm not, pushing back and like, let me make sure I'm thin and successful, and I'm just kind of tired of being thin and successful.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Can we have that on a sweatshirt?
Yeah. Oh my God, you should. Okay.
That's a great sweatshirt.
I'm tired of being thin and successful. Revolt 2025 Halloween. Yeah. Be there.
I'm going to make you a sweatshirt about that.
And I'm going to wear it.
Halloween.
I'm going to cut the neck out. I'm going to rhinestone it.
Of course. Hot glue some things on it.
Bedazzle.
Yeah. I had another question. Did you ever have weird interactions with men during your career?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The weirdest one that comes to my mind is when this kid that I knew like literally 20 years ago that I hadn't talked to in like 20 years, like I literally forgot that he existed, messaged me on MySpace or Facebook, and he was like, I just want you to know the internet is forever. And when you have children, they're going to find these pictures and these videos. And he was like, I just want you to know I just care so much for your soul, like that kind of a thing. And I thought that was so funny. I think I printed it out and hung it up on my bulletin board for a while because I thought it was so ridiculous. And there have been a couple of men too that like produce burlesque shows, which is kind of weird. Not like they've ever like crossed any physical lines, but I just give any straight cis man that's producing a burlesque show, I'm like, what are you doing here, dude? Are you married to burlesque? No, get out, like there's that kind of element. I remember one time also, nowadays the spaces where I perform, there are men there, I just ignore them, but I try to only perform in like burlesque community spaces, not so much like at this club or that club or this private party, which is what I used to do when I was younger. I also remember one time there was a kid, like his friends were wanting to leave, and he was so determined that I was in love with him. And he was like, let me get your number, talking to me. And while I was dancing on stage, and I was just like laughing so hard, like, young man, first of all, young man, you're very young. I'm not going to give you my number. And like, I do not care.
This is an act.
Yeah, this is an act. And then definitely just peripheral weirdness where like students of mine drop out because their boyfriends and husbands don't like it, or, that kind of a stuff. I will say, though, that my experiences aren't that many because I have certainly isolated myself from men big time, a lot. I don't really fuck with men in any kind of way except for my husband. And he's an alien. And he knows that. You know what I mean? I love my brother. I mean, like, when I say that, like, do I love my brothers-in-law? Do I love my dad? Yes, I do. But I don't fuck with men. I don't think about them. I don't consider them.
You also not that kind of person that goes to like after parties and all these things where the bad shit happens.
That's also true. I have always been like that. Like, I've never been like wanting to go to the clubs, want to go out. And I also, even though I think I've been putting myself out there as like an attractive woman my whole life, I really don't get approached a lot either. I think I'm very standoffish. I think I'm actually like probably more queer than I really realized. Just like society is just like, you like boys. And like, I do. But not that much.
Yeah. Just this one.
Yeah, just that one. And I also, and that also means that like I never really like, I wasn't a girl dreaming of my wedding or motherhood. I was dreaming of this, like that example I gave of when I was 10. And like, I wasn't really into baby dolls. I was into Barbie. Barbie has boobs, you see. That's much more interesting to me than like a baby with a bottle. And I've just kind of always been that way. But again, it's not because I'm like, oh, and then all the boys will be looking. No, I don't want all the boys looking at me. I just want all the girls being like, yeah, look at that. Like, I want to, like, I don't know. It's like Powerpuff Girls, not like Jessica Rabbit.
I think that's so important because I do think there's this stigma or this presumption that burlesque is done for the attention of men. And it's fascinating to think about it. not in that context at all, but flip it on its head. And it's like, no, this is about me as a woman feeling powerful because I have boobs and hips and milky skin and this figure. I know the power of this figure.
Yes.
I think that is so cool because it is an expression that we don't really get to.
We're not allowed.
Let ourselves feel.
And to feel that in the community of other women is a whole other thing too. Like you feel it for yourself, but then to also kind of like, it is really powerful. A lot of people want to ask, like, well, what's the difference between like a strip club and burlesque? And the joke is that a girl in a strip club is going to make money. That's a joke. The truth is the stigma and also the presentation. So when you come to see me perform in a burlesque show, you're going to pay the same ticket and you guys are going to get the same show. If you come to see me in a strip club, I'm going to come up to you and be like, hi, how are you doing? Do you want to chat? Do you want to have a drink? And do you want to, let's you and me go have some, it's a sales job. I'm trying to close a deal with as many people as possible so I can, give you as many dances as possible. And that is like a very big difference. And I would say also, it is more geared towards male fantasy. Men are very graphic. They're very visual. Women are visual also. That's like when you ask me, like, would I go, if it wasn't up to laws, would I go full nude? I think that I would, but it would be a very different, like full nude dancing in a gentleman's club is very explicit. And that's not really, I think maybe some women are into that and that's fine. But in general, I think women are much more, just about eroticism and sensuality and not so much like I can see her kidneys, It's like a different kind of a thing.
I'm even the same way when it comes to male strippers.
Yeah.
I went to I don't even remember what it was. Something in Vegas. Chippendales, yes.
Oh yeah.
Why wasn't I invited on this trip? I'm just kidding.
I was filming this TV show for the German television about 4 women who moved from Germany to LA, and
show them the best.
Exactly. And we wanted to show that we went to Vegas for a trip. Of course, 4 women when they go to Vegas go to a strip club, like to a male's. And I was kind of like, do we really have to go? I don't even want to see them. And then of course they got us on stage and like Ian Ziering was stripping at that time from Beverly Hills 90210.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he was a male. He was the front male stripper of the Strippendales for a season. Yes, I'm not kidding. He kissed me on the cheek on the stage.
Oh my God.
And it's all on TV in Germany.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Whatever. What I wanted to say, they had an act there, and I'm really into dancing.
The couple,
right? Oh no, that was the Magic Mike show. Okay. Oh my God, totally. Yes, we got to.
Sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
No, the Chippendales, like I don't know, like 6 dudes, 8 dudes, or wherever. They were in like jeans and plaid. Sorry for my accent. Plaid shirts and cowboy hat. They were like cowboys, and then they had this choreographed dance to a cool song, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. That's what I want to see. And then they started stripping, and I was kind of like, ugh.
Do you know what?
Like, I don't even want to see you get naked.
This is my opinion. I think male stripping it just kind of makes me giggle because I'm like, I see women that go nuts over it, but I'm like, are y'all really into this? I feel again like it's kind of male centric. When you think, guys who get real beefy, they're not doing it for us.
Right.
They're doing it for their boys. Men are in love with men. Women are in love with women. Like that's just only natural. But I'm with you. Like now I'm not talking about what they call boylesque, which is, male performers performing striptease in this revival type thing, but just this mainstream, like when I see these beefy guys like do their body rolls, I'm like, oh God. I'm like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
and that's what you just said, the erotic dance that we were talking about a while ago, that's from the Magic Mike show.
Oh, so hot.
And that's how the Magic Mike show starts. They have these 5 typical strippers, like the Village People strippers on stage, and then they go in the audience and they're like grinding their hips on you, and you just hang there and think like, oh, get your genitals out of my face.
It's like, sir, please.
That's nothing is erotic about that to me right now.
I agree.
I completely agree. It doesn't.
Then they stop the show. Then there's a woman coming on stage saying, is that what we want? No, it's not. And then the whole show
is better.
Turns and gets different. And then there's this one dance, what I sent you a video of that, where a man and a woman are just dancing together.
I was like sweating.
Seriously, she's in underwear. He is at some point in his shorts, but not more naked than that. Yeah. And they dance in rain. There has rain coming from, but my goodness, that dance.
No, Taryn, this dance is very explicit, not graphic, I guess. Like, it's very erotic. It's not like, we're not talking dirty dancing here. We're talking simulated sex acts.
Yes,
but dance. But
in
like
such an erotic way, and so beautifully done.
So done, yeah.
And not this like grinding his thing in your face, you know, where you're just like, who wants this? Which women want? I mean, everybody there is just like screaming, but do we really like this?
I don't believe them when they're screaming.
Right?
No, because in the bedroom too, like we women, or most of us women, I feel like all of the conversations I've had with my girlfriends, it's more about the emotional connection and like the intimacy that gets us going than like when the guy is just
hammering.
Yeah. So I get why the dance that's erotic and sensual and intimate, like I could get that being something that captures women way more than the Chippendales guys going in the Magic Mike guys going in the audience and just like grinding some audience member. Yeah, it's like that is not what women want in the bedroom, and it's not what we want.
Also, you know what it is, if I think about it and compare these two pictures, it's also like the respect that the man has for the woman in this moment. Like this dance that they do together is such a togetherness and a respect. And he's putting her on this pedestal of this gorgeous being. Compared to that dude that stands over you and just grinds his thing in your face, we're just like, we get that all the time. We don't need that.
Exactly. It's the attention to detail and the personal care. And I believe that's why that horrible, poorly written book 10, 15 years ago, 50 Shades of Grey, was such a huge thing. That is one of the most toxic, that is not what kink is. That is not a healthy BDSM relationship, but everyone was eating it up because that man cared about your nutrition. That, you know, I'm assuming, like it's been a long time since I had a conversation about this book, but it's like, yeah, we don't want big muscles or we don't want this grotesque display of bravado. We want you to be like, oh, did you go to your dentist appointment? Oh, good job. Here, let me take you to dinner. I already made reservations. Yeah. Or like just taking care of things. Just taking care of things. Make a choice. Take the initiative. You're a man, right? You're supposed to be so good at, you know, initiating. Yeah.
My friend had this sticker on her fridge in German language, which said in German, wer ficken will, muss freundlich sein zum Frühstück, which translates to who wants to fuck has to be nice at the breakfast table first.
That's right, though.
Like, that's where it starts.
That's where it starts. That's so true.
Don't be an idiot to me all day and then think you can get romance in the bedroom. No. That maybe works for men. That doesn't work for women me. So well.
No, foreplay.
Can we make that sticker?
Can we do that sweatshirt?
No, you guys, you must have a merch line. And I think
has to be nice at the breakfast table.
I will wear it.
You would wear that.
I would wear it 100%. Yeah. 100%. I think that's
Can you run around with a sweatshirt that says fuck, or do you get in trouble?
That's a good question. I am at the point on social media too where I'm trying not even to swear anymore because I've had so many issues. And I do post a lot of political content on Instagram as well, and that also gets my account throttled, but I do not care. I do not care. But yeah, I would.
You probably have to do the F and then some whatever.
You could do like a little
dots and stars and things.
Yeah, that would be really
Otherwise,
fun.
You would get in trouble when.
Oh, that's annoying.
With the family,
with
with children.
We're gonna say this, like, let's just say it.
Are you going to continue having your online classes?
Yeah, I am.
Where can you find them?
I have my website, gingervalentine.com, and I have, it's like Netflix for dance, and it has a bunch of like Pilates and a lot of fundamentals for burlesque and resources for burlesque dancers. And then I also have evergreen courses. Most of my content right now is geared for people that really want to get involved in burlesque and are really trying to go for it. But that's what I was saying. I'm really ready to shift and pivot myself to a broader, I don't know what the word is, concept, I guess, and kind of integrate a lot of things and reach out to women, maybe even like y'all who are like, I don't want to be in a burlesque show. Maybe you do, I don't know. But like, I don't want to be in a burlesque show, but this sounds interesting. This sounds fun. I would spend a Saturday afternoon, with my girlfriends, like, or I sure would like to have a workout that, is fun to do and not at the gym with a bunch of sweaty boys or, stuff like that. But it is very, like, I have no idea. What am I going to be when I grow up? I don't know. What is it going to look like in 5 years from now? I have no idea. I really don't. I'm okay with that.
We should take a class.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be so fun to get a group of girlfriends together and do this.
Let's do it.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's something that I'd really like to do, especially here in LA, whenever like women-owned businesses start to have their retreats and their this and their that. I would love to either speak with them or like lead a class or talk about confidence and then lead a class and, do that kind of stuff. It'll take me a while before I get ready to do that. But
let's see if our producer John is up to do that with us.
Oh my God, that'd be so fun. That would be so much fun.
Sorry, John.
John, you have to now. Sorry.
Don't cut that out.
I was just gonna say, so I did a lot of this year I spent in like trauma recovery therapy, and I did a workshop on it was a Kundalini yoga workshop, but it was all women, and it was led by this incredible woman who activated our Kundalini chakra, and it just released all of this pent up female energy. And it comes out either as like a laughing fit or a crying fit or a screaming fit, or all these things come out because you don't realize you're storing trauma in certain parts of your body. And so much of our conversation today has reminded me of my experience in that, because there was something beautiful about the female energy and the expression of it and exploration of it. And I've just had like the lenses pulled back for me today in terms of what I thought I knew about burlesque dancing. And I'm seeing it more in terms of like something that us as women should explore and release, because it's going to be healthier for us if we do.
It'll prepare you for the revolution.
Yeah.
I'm not sorry. No, I don't mean to make a joke out of what you said was so beautiful, important. No, 100. No, but absolutely. I feel like, especially, I think it's not always this way, but still in general, there's a lot of competition among women, especially when it comes to men as a resource. Like they're resourceful, give me a break. And I think that there is power in unity. And I think that, I learned this recently. I don't have like all the, facts straight. But gossip, is very stigmatized. But that used to be life-saving for women. And like women as a means of communication, like they named it gossip and made it pejorative for a reason. They don't want women talking to each other. They want to make women polarized and oppositional. I don't think that, in general, society really truly wants women coming together, talking about these kinds of things and sharing skills and ideas and empowering others, because even though things have changed a lot since our mothers, women are still, our labor is exploited. 10 or 15 years ago, it was much more like, who cares? Let's just watch TV and like, I don't care. And now I'm just so obsessed with change and trying to find a better way and creating more community. Because I feel like a lot of women, we all feel so isolated. Like, where's the village? It takes a village. Where is it?
Yeah.
Y'all lived how close to each other, and you didn't,
It takes a village.
It takes a time to like find your community, I guess, which is why I think it's so cool that y'all are doing this. I really do.
Yeah, that's what this already evolved over the amount of interviews we did.
Yeah.
So much more than we even thought it would be. The stories that we're hearing, as we said at the beginning, we were just like, oh, we're going to show these success stories.
No, you guys are going to be changed forever.
Stuff. And
like, yeah.
All these stories that we hear so far, they're so much deeper than a success story.
Yeah.
It's like, every woman that was here so far just has a story that needs to be told.
Yeah. Yeah, we all have a story, I think, that needs to be told, which is, again, like, not to repeat myself, I think things like this are important. Like,
and it's also it's a story that might help somebody else.
Exactly.
That's the thing too. If just one person takes something positive away from this interview and maybe changes something for the better, then it's already our job's done. Kind of. It's like that would be already so amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's like I want to ask this one question is, what's the thing you want people to take away from hearing about your story?
I think the thing I want people to take away is that anything you want to do, you can do. And I think the person standing in your way most is probably yourself with like limiting beliefs. And also that it's never too late for a rebrand or like a redirect, and that there's power in numbers.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you guys so much. It was really fun to chat with y'all.
I could
do this for 3 more hours.
I know. Same.
We're going to see you and take a class.
Yes, please. If you want to set up your own thing, we can totally do that. You just play at Sarah's house if you want.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Without the child.
Yeah, without the child.
Well, that was fun.
That was awesome.
I enjoyed that conversation a lot. I could have talked for like 5 more hours with her.
I want to go dance.
Oh, that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's get a group of girls and go dance.
We're not bringing you, though.
No.
We're doing this without the camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was so, oh my God, she knows what she knows, I feel like. No, that's putting wrong. What's the sentence? What's the word that I'm looking for? She knows, I don't want to say she has opinions because that's always so negative, but you know what I mean?
But it's so great that she has opinions.
She has specific values and voices them.
And she stands in them and their power.
Yeah.
Which I love. She's not apologetic about her beliefs and her opinions and what she does, which she shouldn't be. No one should be. But it's just so refreshing and empowering to have that conversation with her.
And she wants us all to strike over Halloween.
Yeah.
Just so we have this out there.
Yep.
We're going to make that happen. Halloween 2025 is not going to happen.
Yep. At least we're not putting all the effort into the costumes next year.
No, we're not putting any effort in.
It's too much.
Nothing. And then see what happens.
Yeah.
Oh.
Poor children.
Which I know, right? You said you get a full new perspective on burlesque.
I do.
Yeah? Like
because
how?
I feel like prior to this conversation with Ginger, I was hypersensitive to the stigma of burlesque. And I thought the conversation was going to be more about the stigma and the objectification aspects and the catering to men aspects and stuff like that. And it wasn't at all. I think we touched on it, but very briefly. It was more about this form of art and an expression of female power.
Yeah, and she made very clearly that it's not catering to men.
Yeah.
Like for her. That doesn't mean that's for everybody, but for her, it's not, I'm not doing this to attract the boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's so great to talk about. In other cultures, you have forms of burlesque dancing, though they're not obviously labeled burlesque, like ballet dancing or geishas. Like you have these movements by women to kind of capture the male audience. But really, if you study those practices that women have gotten into over centuries and into the culture, like geishas were actually feminist activists in Japan. Like when they graduated out of being geishas, they were the first women that owned restaurants and schools, and they were business women. And ballet dancing too was started really celebrated, women's fertility. And it was a dance to celebrate women's fertility and the power of that. So yeah, I think it was such a fascinating conversation, and it opened up my perspective more globally away from this heavy stigma that we have here in America about burlesque dancing. I'm so grateful to Ginger for sharing and opening my eyes, for sure.
I'm so excited to go deeper into that. Like talk more about. I can see us hanging out and talking more about that.
Oh yeah, we're doing this next Saturday.
Oh yeah. Just so you know, Ginger, there's a date.
You're booked.
Coming. I'm gonna just text you the dates.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have all her. If you want to take a class or if you want to do anything like that, we have all our information, of course, below. And as always, if that story was inspiring to you, or if you maybe know somebody who would be interested in this story or could take something out of this story, please forward it to that person and subscribe and like and comment and all the pretty things.
Thank you.
Thank you.